10-round junior welterweight bout for you. Diosbelys Hurtado squares off against Leonardo Mas. Hurtado, defecting from Cuba in 1994, now fighting out of Miami. Mas from Puerto Rico, fighting out of Miami. And now this is a juiced-up crowd, and Hurtado is a guy who made a name for himself in a loss.
He did indeed. He fought Pernell Whitaker for the welterweight title in a bout that Whitaker thought was a tune-up. Well, Hurtado dominated him until the 11th round when Whitaker showed surprising power and knocked him out. The man across the way, Leonardo Mas, had his world title shot against Costa Zoo. That ended badly for him, but they are in a ring tonight with a very divided crowd. They are both fixtures on the boxing scene in Miami, one from Puerto Rico, one from Cuba. Should be exciting.
It is a loud crowd, a crowd waiting for boxing. And to kick it off, here's our ring announcer, Mark Biro.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Miccosukee Indian Gaming Arena on the grounds of the Miccosukee Tribal Nation near Miami, Florida, for an evening of championship boxing on the Deuce, ESPN2. Under the promotion of Main Events, in association with Team Freedom and Budweiser, this Bud's for you. Tonight's bouts are under the auspices of the Florida State Athletic Commission, the Chairman Eric Riley, Executive Director Mike Shanti. This is your first contest of the evening, scheduled for 10 rounds, junior welterweights. Your referee for this event from Miami, Florida, Armando Garcia. Introducing first, in the red corner to my right, wearing the red trunks with black trim, weighing in at 141 pounds. His professional record reads 24 victories, 4 defeats, 1 draw, and 16 wins, coming by way of knockout. El Hijo de Dorado, Puerto Rico, now making his home in Miami, Florida, Leonardo Moro Mas. His opponent in the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with blue and red accessories. He weighs in at 142 pounds with a professional record that reads 24 wins, 1 defeat, 16 wins, coming by way of knockout. A member of Team Freedom, El Hijo de la República de Cuba, now making his home in Miami, Florida. Here is Diosbelys Hurtado. 10 rounds, junior welterweights.
Mas getting set for tonight's 10-round junior welterweight bout. Let's take a look at the rules as governed by the Florida Athletic Commission for tonight's first bout. 10-point must system, 3 knockdown rule in effect, no standing 8. Fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round. Accidental foul, they'll go to the scorecards. If half of the rounds are completed, that would be 5 rounds in this bout. Prior to that, it will be a technical draw. No partial rounds will be scored. Diosbelys Hurtado in 1994, participating in a tournament in Ledyard, Connecticut, representing Cuba. On his way back to Cuba with his team in the Miami International Airport, defected. He was upset that he was not part of the 1992 Barcelona Olympic team for Cuba. He had been an outstanding amateur in Cuba prior to that, and the Cubans had felt that he would defect during the Olympics, Al, so they did not let him go to Barcelona, but he defected in the United States, and now he fights out of Miami.
And he has become a popular figure here in the boxing landscape, as has Mas. And that's what makes this such a tasty matchup for the locals here in Miami.
Take a look at early power. Hurtado has 8 first-round knockouts. 10 of his 16 have come in the first 2 rounds. 9 of Mas's 16 have come within the first 2 rounds.
When Hurtado performed so well against Whitaker, there were rumblings among the folks in boxing that knew Hurtado that said Whitaker better not take him for granted. Well, Whitaker did, and it was a tough fight. And since then, to prove the point, he has reeled off 4 very good wins, a couple of them against some fairly good guys, Jaime Balboa and also Aaron Zarate. So he has done pretty well for himself.
Mas in February lost a 10-round decision to Angel Villegas in Puerto Rico. In October, in California, knocked out in the 8th round by Larry Dixon. Dixon was up. Mas cut near the right eye. Mas was dead by the end of round number 6. time that Hurtado fires off a punch, this pro-Cuban crowd will react.
He lands a very nice counter left hook. Hurtado has obviously decided that in this fairly big ring, it's 21 feet square, that he will box and try and counterpunch Mas early in this fight. Mas not doing a great job of cutting the ring off. He's following Hurtado around. Good hook by Mas, but a good counter right by Hurtado. So we see early on it's very much a chess match, but a chess match being fought with power.
1 minute remaining in the first round. This bout scheduled for 10.
This promises to be a very intriguing evening of junior welterweights. This match and then the Judah Ward match. We've got 4 guys in there that have lots of skills.
Hurtado, 25 years of age. He'll turn 26 in September. Mas turned 26 in February of this year.
Hurtado trying to do enough to keep Mas off him, but still bring Mas in where he can counterpunch him.
Mas able to pick off most of those shots with his forearms.
Mas switching to lefty, which he will do from time to time.
Come to the end of round number 1. Diosbelys Hurtado, Leonardo Mas, scheduled for 10 from the Miccosukee Indian Reservation on the Deuce. Welcome back to the Miccosukee Indian Reservation. Bob Papa along with Al Bernstein just outside of Miami. Round number 2 underway between Diosbelys Hurtado and Leonardo Mas, scheduled for 10. Take a look at some punch numbers from round 1.
Hurtado using his counterpunching ability, and interesting number there. When you looked at that round, you might not be tempted to think that Hurtado threw that many more punches than Mas, and that's one of the joys of having CompuBox in the numbers. It reminds you what guys have done in a round. Because you would think Mas threw more than 18 punches, but it was the illusion that he was busy because he was always coming forward.
And with the pro-Cuban crowd, you would have thought that Hurtado landed more.
Yeah, that's true.
Than 27%. But Mas did a very good job of blocking most of the shots. But every time Hurtado fires off a combination, blocked or not, the crowd will roar.
Mas very badly wants to get that left hook in, but he's throwing it pretty wide and from far out, and that's why Hurtado's able to counter him with the right over that left hand. Mas, when he got his title match against Costazu, was really overwhelmed. It was ruled a technical draw because they ruled that Costazu hit him after he'd been told to break, but Mas had already been down several times and really was just overwhelmed by the power of Zhu.
Mas sent down 3 times in that first round against Zhu. Garcia steps in this ring. What about the pace here in this round?
Yeah, in this round, Hurtado has not, I don't think, been as good a counterpuncher as he was earlier, and Mas has gotten a few more shots in. Especially the left hook, he's starting to land that punch a little bit more.
Half minute to go. Again, Hurtado puts his punches together, but Mas blocked most of that.
Yeah, he really did. And of course you heard the crowd, as you pointed out. Although there are some Leonardo Mas folks here, but they're not as many as Hurtado.
Final seconds of round number 2. Hurtado and Mas in a 10-round junior welterweight showdown. And Mas is down. Mas is down. You can only be saved by the bell in the last. Welcome back to Miami. Leonardo Mas sent to the canvas at the end of round number 2. He did get up, though, Al.
Let's take a look at how it happened. He walks into a left hand by Hurtado. Hurtado had been trying to counterpunch him all night, landed it up by the temple, and the equilibrium, I think, of Mas is what really suffered here, and that's why he went down and was so wobbly. See, it wasn't the greatest left hook, but it landed in just the right spot on the temple.
Now, a boxer cannot be saved by the bell. Only in the last round, Mas got up. He received the mandatory 8 count and got back to his corner, and here comes Hurtado looking to finish it, and Hurtado slipped. He slipped. Hurtado was not hit. He slipped.
Now, that is the kind of knockdown that a guy can recover from. So don't write Leonardo Mas out of this fight yet, because if he has time to get his equilibrium back, he could still be okay in this bout.
What about the fact that he's walking right at Hurtado?
That is a mistake, and he just paid for it. He should be buying time so that he can clear his head. Tactically, he's a disaster in this round. No reason to go to Hurtado, who has been effective counterpunching anyway. Make him come to you.
And still, eons left in round 3. Now that time, Mas blocked the punch, and down he goes from the right, a snapping right. The corner of Mas evidently told him to charge, and the referee said no Mas.
Well, this is a very, very nice win for Hurtado, who now notches his 5th straight win since the loss to Whitaker, and he is telling folks that he's a guy that should get a title shot again sometime soon, that his performance against Whitaker was no fluke.
Well, there were reports in the New York Daily News this week. Michael Katz wrote it that Vivian Harris, a 19-year-old out of Brooklyn, reportedly knocked Hurtado down in sparring. And the manager of Hurtado, Renee Gill, said it was malarkey. There is Gill with the glasses on and the tan suit. And Hurtado said, hey, I'm fine, and he proved it tonight.
Boy, did he ever. Well, he had a very good plan as we look at Leonardo Mas, very dejected, and rightfully so. It was a rough outing for him. Hurtado had counterpunched well throughout the first couple of rounds. Here is where he went on the attack after he had knocked Mas down, and even when he pressed it forward, he was able to do the job. And it would be a right hand here after a left hook. The left hook that Hurtado used was very effective. It really, the left probably was even more damaging.
Mas did not land a punch in round 3. Hurtado landed 20. And the chance of Cuba as Hurtado improves to 25-1, his 17th stoppage. We'll take a look at some final numbers, and that sort of tells the tale.
That is a dominating performance. And you know what was nice about that, Bob? He did it tactically, because he made Mas fight the fight he wanted him to fight.
Hey, let's face it, coming in, we thought that Mas would give Hurtado all he could handle, and Hurtado took care of business. Here's Mark Biro.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 1 minute, 7 seconds of the 3rd round. The winner by technical knockout, el hijo de la República de Cuba, Diosbelys Hurtado. Hurtado.
So Diosbelys Hurtado stops Leonardo Mas, knocked him down at the end of round 2 and knocked him out in round number 3. Earlier tonight, Vivian Harris, the man who reportedly knocked Hurtado down during sparring, he's a 19-year-old from Brooklyn, improved to 6-0, recorded his 5th knockout. He starts Michael Lopez out, and he looks like he has some skills.
A good young prospect, and he showed that he is a good young fighter.
And Renee Gill, Hurtado's manager, was upset that it was leaked to the press that Hurtado may have been down. Very interesting situation. Gill said it should have been kept quiet.
Normally they don't talk about things that happen in training camp. According to Hurtado and his trainer, Manuel Elizondo, he slipped as Vivian was throwing a punch in the corner somewhere. I wasn't there. These are things that should be kept in the gym. They should not be put out to the press. We had an incident in March where Mario Ibarren, a 154-pounder, knocked down Fernando Vargas, and no one saw that in the press, because these are things that should be kept in training. It shouldn't be put out to the press. This is for them to get ready to fight. It shouldn't be all over the newspapers.
Al, these things happen in boxing where the chalk will have some problems in their training, but as long as Hurtado did what he did in the real ring, all that is forgotten.
And I mean, boxing is littered with stories of people being knocked down in training, and we always make much of it. Why? Because we're always looking for something to write about or talk about before fights. That's what press people do, but Hurtado showed tonight that it was just in training, and this is a young man to watch in the welterweight division.
Diosbelys Hurtado comes up with the win, knocking out Leonardo in round number 3. Don't forget our main event.